Croatia has one of the loveliest coastlines I have ever had the pleasure and fortune of exploring. I headed for Croatia after being met at the art festival in Venice, Italy, by an ex-roommate of mine, an Egyptian physicist who proposed a peculiar plan to hitchhike a boat. At the time, I reckon I had hitchhiked nearly everything else, including a plane in college. A story for another time. I agreed that it seemed like a life challenge that I needed to accept, and we struck off even farther eastward, hugging the Adriatic shores, searching harbors, and cornering boat captains to help us in our mission. Stranded at a bus station in Zadar, Croatia, we struck up conversation with some men at a semi-closed bar read, "Closed, except to them and their exclusive invitees." One of them, overcome with curiosity, took us under his wing for the rest of the night, driving us around the city, treating us to beers and conversation regarding Croatian history and culture. We ended our night at the sea organ, an architectural musical instrument and art piece that uses the movement of the waves to push air through openings in the marble steps leading down to the sea. It was a haunting sound, like siren spirits, and I felt Dad's own spirit nudge me appropriately. I spent a few hours regaling our new friend with stories of Dad and his music and art interests. His dream deferred of traveling, and my horror of having failed him up until then, and the fear that I may fail him all my life. We three fell asleep next sea organ. Its gentle sounds fluctuating with the cool, salty breeze and lapping waves lulled us to sleep in sensory harmony. We stirred long after the sun had arisen, replete with satisfying sleep and something more. Our tour guide turned teammate advised us that a city called Split would be our best bet for success, and he set us on a bus headed farther south. Split was a bustling city, so we got busy striking up conversation with every friendly looking passerby and anyone who even looked like they owned a boat or knew any boat people. My ex roommate was deflated as he was running out of time before he needed to return to Geneva for work. Unsuccessful and feeling defeated, he curled up on the boardwalk for his night's sleep, and I wandered the wharf with Dad, and Skinny dipped with some strangers before running around on a giant inflatable maze like a bunch of children. When I went to look for my friend the next morning, he was gone. I would not see him again for another 7 years. I vowed to complete the mission for all our sakes, Dad's included. The first boat I tried was headed to the island of Var, a dreamy, picturesque island and town, straight out of a storybook. The boat was a large barge of a water taxi seating a few hundred people. The queue was long, and folks were hot and irritable, standing in the sizzling summer sun. I got in line without a ticket, but with the thinking that there might be safety in numbers. My hope was that the throngs of people of varying nationalities and languages would create confusion, and I would slip through out of sheer exasperation from trying to keep track of paid versus any unpaid passengers. It was a veritable barge of babel, and it worked. The young ticket checker and I looked at each other with an almost fraternal noning and nod, and he let me pass. It was surreal. It was too easy. It was so easy that I told myself it sufficed for the moment, having lost so much time in the pursuit of this goal than in being truly present to my travel experience. I toured the island, swam in the serene cerulean sea, and ate some of the freshest seafood. I visited the monasteries and churches, honoring the god of my father and the god that had worked a miracle to get me on that barge, without which the ticket price was off-putting, and I would not have wished to go further out to sea without hitchhiking. That island is full of charm, and I saw the most majestic sunset of my entire life there. I now conclude that there must just be something about the placement of the horizon in that exact spot that produces magnificent sunsets, a fact which was corroborated by a small group of disparate onlookers as we waited for the awesome, massive, glowing orb to be extinguished. The sun was so large on the horizon that it was hard to capture it in the frame of a single photo. It did not make sense. It seemed to defy natural law. The other onlookers in my vicinity naturally gravitated together once the topmost fiery crescent was finally submerged, seemingly dunked in the same waters that had bathed us before. Almost in unison, we all attested in awe that that sunset was the sunset of our lives. We exchanged hugs and quick conversation before we decided we had to prolong the experience. If our shared sunset held so much magic, what would the night bring to us? We set off together to celebrate that shared knowledge. We had to. We felt we had just been sworn in to a very fleeting club that would disband and be rendered obsolete once the sun rose once more, promising the experience to a different set of onlookers. We capped the night off with a shared smoke of a bit of hash from a Norwegian man I'd met earlier that day. Humbled by the crippling strength of the medicine, and knowing that the countdown had begun on my fleeting consciousness, I hopped behind the bench overlooking the site where the sunset and our little group met. I stumbled a short distance into the small grove of trees and fell asleep under a borrowed tablecloth from a nearby restaurant. It would be many years and many thousands of miles later that I would be having a random conversation with a stranger who had also been to Var and experienced a sunset. There that I realized the little fleeting club was actually large and long-standing. The man, much older than I, all testified to it having been the best sunset they had seen in their long and well-traveled lives. This meant that our small band of initiates were unique only in the way that we celebrated that experience together. In that way, at that time and in our respective skins, but we ourselves were not unique in our relevance or importance. I can't help but to be even more awed by that, and also curious at how many more of us there are out there in the world, clinging to that sunset as the most resplendent of our lives. If I could plan my passing from this earthly place, that sunset would be the penultimate culmination of my life's experiences. In fact, I myself would like to set like that sun, leaving folks in awe and honored by having been brought together by something only a divine act of God could do. Like my dad did, I woke up and assessed my dark semi-conscious decision making and realized that it had been flawless. I was directionally oriented thanks to the choice of sleeping location. I was warm and comfortable thanks to the choice of bed and bedding, and I was safe in the trees. I could see people walking the path by the beach below, but unless I had intent to call attention to myself, they were none the wiser as to my presence in the brush. All those years as an outdoor educator had made me globally adaptable, I thought self-satisfied, as I burrowed deeper in the warm, dense weave of the tablecloth and returned to my slumber.